We're recording.
And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I actually like that.
I need hair touch-ups. Bad boys up there. Action. Welcome back to Miss Lift's channel. I'm your host Danielle, and today we're going to be discussing what exactly happened to me 12 weeks ago. Can you tell I've been watching way too much of the morning show on Apple TV? Oops. It's been a hot minute since I've posted a real video on here. Unfortunately, I've been a little preoccupied with life lately, but today I'm going to give you a rundown on what happened. For some of you viewers out there, this topic may be boring as hell, and you might not even make it through the whole video. Thanks for clicking anyways, and we'll see you in the next one. I just want to start off by saying that most studies show that about 80% of us will experience back pain at some point in our lives, and ding, 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 this is the topic we're talking about today. In December, I had emergency spine surgery after being diagnosed with quadra equina syndrome. That really rolls off the tongue. It's also known as CES. It's a rare condition that occurs when the nerves at the end of the spinal cord that control the functions of everything below the belly button that are compressed. If you take away anything from this video, I hope it's that you remember to ask questions, trust your intuitions, demand those next steps, and always be the strongest advocate for yourself when it comes to your health. My goal for this video is to provide you with my experience in the Ontario healthcare system, what happened in detail, and why it was deemed an emergency. Let's backtrack a little. I competed in a bodybuilding competition in late July of 2024. A week leading up to it, I felt pain in my upper glute, almost like it was overworked and sore. Everyone's had that feeling before, right? So I wasn't really concerned. A few days later, I started getting calf pain, similar to a Charlie horse feeling, and at the time, I thought those were two separate issues. A week after my competition, I woke up with a 10 out of 10 stabbing pain in my lower back and upper glute, which radiated down my entire left leg, also known as sciatica. If you've ever had this, I feel for you. I immediately lost all feeling on my left side from my glute to my toes. The pain was a pain I've never experienced before. And to put it in perspective, I herniated a disc in my L4, L5 at the bottom of a heavy deadlift 5 years ago. I guess you can say I'm pretty experienced with having severe lower back pain. The pain was so bad that I was unable to stand longer than a minute max, let alone walk. When I went to my family doctor, they almost didn't believe me when I said I lost all my feeling. I remember so vividly Mike randomly kicking me in the calf so hard when I was in the middle of talking, just to show them how serious we were. The doctor finally believed me when I wasn't even fazed by it and when my leg didn't even flinch. People should never have to experience feeling like an idiot when they're explaining their symptoms to a doctor. And so the paperclip test begins. This is where they poke you with the sharp part to see where you can and can't feel. Can confirm, couldn't feel anywhere. I was then put on a heavy dose of anti-inflammatory meds for 2 weeks, which took about 7 to 8 days to kick in, and then we requested an MRI. At this point, I started getting weird nerve pain down my entire left side. Now we're in about early September when I decided to go to Emerge because it was a month with the loss of feeling, a lot of pain, and needed to fast track this damn MRI to get some answers. They did their normal strength tests and more pricks with that frickin' paperclip. They did a bladder scan, which came back normal, and I had pelvic sensation. At this point, I didn't really understand why this was a crucial piece for knowing if it was considered an emergency. After an extremely long wait, thanks Ontario, the doctor referred me to a neurologist and requested an EMG. They also put me on another round of anti-inflammatory meds. I was pretty skeptical on taking them again because long-term use can increase the risk of some pretty serious issues, such as gastrointestinal, kidney, heart, and so much more. I knew to ask for stomach protectant to help minimize these risks, as I already have a gastrointestinal condition that makes me have a very slow digestion. So this risk is a very real one for someone like me specifically. I ended up seeing a neurologist a week later and had to explain my story yet to another person. I think this is about like my 5th time explaining it. We should really get a tally up on the screen here. More of the same tests and more pricks. I was so done with these stupid paper clips. It's funny too because they all apologized in advance in case it was uncomfortable. Nope, it was not, because guess what? I couldn't feel it. At this point, I had lost majority of my strength and began noticing atrophy on my left side. Like the left side of my ass was abnormally flat and droopy. If I'm being honest, this was a sensitive topic for me because who wants a half-seg yes? Am I right? In all seriousness, muscle atrophy can result from nerve damage, so that's why I got referred to a more specialized neurologist at a different hospital. More waiting rooms, just what I wanted. After countless appointments, I finally got some concrete answers. Prescript has a nice explanation on pain versus injury. Pain science is complicated, so let's visualize it as a Venn diagram for a second. Pain and injury are 2 different things. Pain can be a symptom of an injury, but pain can also occur without an injury. My neurologist said to me, I rarely see people's symptoms and multiple tests all lead to the same answer, but in your case, all our tests and symptoms lead to the same one. I'll come back to that diagram and dig deeper into this topic in a future video. The MRI revealed a severely herniated disc on my L5-S1, which was compressing on my nerve root. I know I said those paperclip pricks weren't painful, but that EMG, oh my goodness. If you don't know how it works, they insert a thin needle into the muscle, which is hooked up to a machine. Then they ask you to relax and contract your muscle. They also do this while moving the needle around. I'm not sure if they're always this uncomfortable, but in the moment, I was really missing those paper clips. The EMG confirmed I did in fact have nerve damage, mainly in my glute and in my calf. The neurologist and I agreed the goal was to avoid surgery as long as possible, especially since I had 2 epidural cortisone shots and PRP with my previous back injury. At this point, I was pretty exhausted of getting poked in the back with needles. The plan was to go on a nerve pain medication for 3 to 4 months and continue physio until our follow-up appointment. Oh wait, add another tally up there for explaining my story to another person. Fast forward 3.5 months when things started escalating. I noticed I was losing feeling in my pelvic area, and to be honest, I thought it was all in my head, so I kind of ignored it. Spoiler warning, I shouldn't have. Oops. When you deal with an injury like nerve damage that reduces your sensation, it can be easy to get in your own head about what you are and aren't feeling. About a week later, I started getting a sharp pain in my lower back. At this point, I knew for a fact I was losing feeling in my pelvic area, and it scared the shit out of me. On top of this, I had frequent urination while feeling like I wasn't emptying my bladder properly. This was clearly not normal. I'm so grateful for my sister who pretty much forced me to go to the Emerge because of my symptoms. For context, she's a physiotherapist who specializes in women's pelvic health. I, of course, was still in denial at this point, so I contacted my neurologist to see what I should do. Since it was a Saturday and I had a follow-up with him on the following Tuesday, he suggested I go to the closest hospital to get repeat imaging ASAP. So that's what I did. Due to my symptoms, I got seen by the emergency doctor fairly quick. Side note, he was a complete dickhead and didn't believe me that my neurologist sent me there. Again, I felt like some of the doctors thought I was lying or exaggerating. I was surprisingly unfazed by his attitude. I think partly because I was still in denial and because I had it in writing to prove to him who really was in charge. At this point, my bladder scan came back normal and I waited overnight for the MRI. A new emergency doctor, who wasn't a dickhead, came back with the results the next morning and said I required surgery within the next 24 to 48 hours. They informed us that the hospital would call us the next day with an appointment. You know the analogy, fight or flight? Yeah, Mike, who is my husband, who also is my coach, click the link below for its info, was definitely in that fight mode and I was on like cruise control. Is that even a thing? So it's Tuesday and I'm at my follow-up appointment with my neurologist. After some tests, he diagnosed me with quad equina syndrome, which is a condition that can cause permanent paralysis, loss of control of the bladder and or bowel if untreated immediately, which I didn't know at the time. He sent me to the Emerge immediately with a letter outlining my condition that the surgery team was expecting me. Up until this point, my experience with the Ontario healthcare system was brutal and felt very disconnected. So I was lucky to have a useful connection through my neurologist. It shouldn't take luck in getting to the point of desperation in Ontario to get the help you need. By the time I got to the hospital, my bladder scan showed 125 milliliters immediately after attempting to empty my bladder. For context, normal is under 50. That's when it finally kicked in for me, knowing my bladder wasn't emptying on its own, and mostly because the nurse told me I couldn't eat or drink the Starbucks Mike just brought me. Injured, but still basic. Did I mention this was all happening on my birthday? What a way to celebrate. Oh, and by this point, the previous hospital never called me. The surgeon wanted to get another MRI, but of my whole spine this time, to ensure he wasn't missing anything before cutting me open. Mike was still in that fight mode, believe it or not. This is funny if you know his personality, but words cannot even explain how lucky I am to have him in my corner. He took care of everything, and all I had to do was lay in the hospital bed and wait. It was a long day for Mike, and they told us the surgery would probably happen in the middle of the night, so I wanted him to be at home, making sure our 10-year-old Frenchie was good. She has some attachment issues with me, which is a whole other video in itself. Full disclosure, I also have a bit of attachment issues with her. I definitely don't check on the indoor cameras every 30 minutes when I'm not home. That's normal, right? I needed him to be at home with her when I went into surgery. I swear it was only about 45 minutes after Mike left when the surgeon came in to sign my life away and transport me to the operating room. They wheeled me out of the elevator, and it was the brightest and coldest room I have ever been in. I kept saying to myself, oh my God, this is exactly like the movies. They put the gas mask on me saying happy birthday, and I was out like a light. That, my friends, was how I spent my 31st birthday. I know, you're pretty jealous, right? Reflecting back, I think what helped me stay on cruise control the whole time was keeping my circle small, only updating a handful of people and assigning someone to update other people on my behalf, which was actually very hard considering I was getting birthday messages all day. It all happened very fast, so I felt like I didn't have a lot of time to overthink it, which is surprising for someone like me. I didn't want everyone's questions and concerns to mess up my cruise control mindset. I'm truly sorry to anybody who felt like they were out of the loop when this was all happening, but I had to put my immediate health first in this situation. The surgery was successful. The surgeon removed 2 knuckle-sized chunks from the disc. The surgeon said he saw the nerve pulse immediately after, which was very good and meant that it was no longer restricted, but there was nerve damage. Immediately after the surgery, some of the feeling returned to my pelvic area and my left side. It can take up to 2 years for nerves to heal if there's not permanent nerve damage. So I guess time will tell for the rest. I stayed in the hospital for about 8 hours post-surgery, which they said was a tad aggressive since people usually stay for a minimum of 24 hours post-surgery. I could not wait to get out of there and get home. Peeing in a bedpan and eating hospital turkey sandwiches at 3 a.m. is not my typical hotel experience. If I was giving a Google review though, I'd give an extra star for whatever that air compression device was on my legs, accompanied by an apple juice and a little residual anesthetic. Vibes were high. A crucial update too, I finally got my Starbucks the next morning, and to make it even better, Krispy Kreme donuts were also involved. In order for me to get discharged, I needed to do an assessment with a physiotherapist to make sure I could stand, walk, and do the stairs on my own. I thought I'd be more nervous to stand up for the first time after surgery, but I was so desperate to get home, I finally switched gears to that fight mode and wasn't nervous at all when I got started. I killed that assessment and my bladder scan came back normal. I've never pushed so hard in my life. I was so ready. But classic Toronto rush hour traffic. It took us an hour to get 1 block from the hospital and 3 hours to get home. I think the biggest risk of my post-surgery so far has been those tire-sized potholes on the Gardiner. So much for rushing to get out of the hospital. Definitely wasn't the most comfortable drive, but so worth it. Because as soon as Mike tucked me in bed and Bella cuddled directly against my incision, I knew everything was gonna be okay. Oh yeah, and the hospital called 3 days after my surgery for an appointment date, 2 weeks later, for just a consult. I won't put the name on blast, but I definitely won't be going back there. Who knows if I would have been able to walk at this point. That is why I started off this video with reminding you to be an advocate for your health and don't take no for an answer when something is clearly wrong. So stay tuned for future videos where I explain certain things a little more in depth, show my post-op rehab, and so much more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do whatever YouTube does, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace. I don't know if I can reach it. Okay, we're doing this in one take. Let's go. Ew, what the fuck? Let me just, if it's not perfect, it's all good. Action. It's been a hot minute since I've recorded. Blah, 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 blah. Thanks, peace.